everybody. Welcome to the show. This is not the Pop Rocks Radio Talk Show. I am the host, pop art painter Jamie Roxx, and this is a new Sunday thing I think we're going to start doing. It's kind of the plan. I'm waiting for a area and a painting to dry over here, and so I had a little time. Believe me, there's always things to do around here, around the studio and stuff, but they're not always the funnest things to do, like doing a video. And my hair was peeking out there. I don't want that. That's not the look. Anyhow, yeah, I haven't really done anything crazy with my hair today or anything. It's just, I did put a tie on and whatnot. And so it's very last minute. My wife, those who may know or may not know, she owns a metaphysical business, crystals and the like, and all of that kind of stuff. And her and Travis, that's her business partner, are at a artesian market today. They have big booths set up and they're selling crystals, and various metaphysical bric-a-brac. How about that? That's a good term. No, they love doing those, meeting new people, hanging out with their peeps, They and I gotta laugh because they have it set up nice. They set up a place for people to, sit amongst their wares and grab a cool Instagram picture. They got a big chair and all this kind of stuff, a frame thing they can hold up. Smart. And that's what we're kind of talking about today. Their crystal bit. No, we're not talking about that. It's pretty cool though. It's called Spectral Moon. There will be a link in the description. You should check it out if crystals are your jam, because they certainly are theirs. Anyhow, what my friend was saying is you should start doing some Jamie only shows where you talk about some of your experiences and whatnot in the art, being an independent artist, working for yourself. Meaning, for those who don't know, I am a full-time working artist, have been for about 20 years or so. This is how I make my living, how, I put food on the table and stuff. I've got a expensive bougie dog and a very pretty wife who likes shoes. So, you got to keep working. I'm kidding, kind of. But no, we live a certain lifestyle, which we like. And, you got to be able to support that. So, that being said and whatnot, that's why I work. Now, what works for me probably are not, I have found over the years, not bad systems to have in place. They might work for you. But legally and all this and that, I can't say that. Here's some things that have worked for me that I have noticed and whatnot. They might work for you. How about that? I think I'm covered that way. And I'm not going to tell you how to paint. I'm not going to tell you how to make a translucent wave. Lots and lots of... I should do some seascapes and whatnot. The problem with that kind of painting is the amount of time it takes and what you're selling it for. The numbers don't jive. And as I'm going to explain, now this is an unscripted show. Everybody's like, yeah, Jamie, we get it. It's an unscripted show, obviously. No, all of my shows are. You'd be surprised at the amount of guests and people sometimes that are like, well, send over the script. I'm like, I don't have a script, man. We're just going to shoot the breeze. Now, I did type up in all, what do they call it? Everybody's so, man, this is the buzzword of the day, of the era. In order to maintain transparency, use some of the same tricks you would as in a seascape on a translucent white. No, I'm kidding. I did write some notes down, and these are just quickly one little sheet page. This ain't going to go that long, of some things I wanted to talk about, just an outline. That's not a script by any means, just a real basic outline, because my mind tends to, I'm always thinking about 12 things at once. So this helps me focus more than anything. Anyhow. Oh, I was being dramatic, I see. I was going to start this out. I said it wasn't a script, but no, it's a good way to start. For those who don't know, I happen to play chess. I like playing chess. I've played chess my whole life, and it is just a good... Oh, my tie. Why is that like that? Okay. Well, who cares? Anyhow, it's a good way to train your brain to think. Some people need that training. I am one of them. But over the years, I have trained my brain how to think kind of in a chess theme. I like to look at the lay of the land. I like to look at the chessboard and run scenarios. Okay, if this happens, I can do this and that and blah, blah, blah. I can set myself up for success or a greater success if I do this or that, etc. It's been very helpful to me. And it's a fun thing, you know. And the cool thing about chess, I learned this as a kid when computers first came out on the general scene to the public. They like to play chess too. So you don't always have to have a partner. You know, you can play the computer, and and people are like, yeah, but you learn patterns and stuff. Not There are so many chess patterns that you ain't gonna learn them all. You know, it's in the billions or trillions or something. Anyhow, one of the things that everybody knows who plays chess is opening. Everybody likes to be white. That's the first move, and that's your strategic advantage. Being white, you know, you do the whole shake them up in a hand and take a hand type deal. But the most popular move, if you're white, to open the chess match is the king pawn move. That's the pawn that's in front of the king, you know, people know. If you do that, with that move, that one move, doesn't matter who you're playing, you automatically have a 66% chance of winning if you're white. That's why it's popular. That's why everybody does it. You have already placed, and this is something that it was beat over my head as a kid growing up by my entrepreneur father. And he was, for those who don't know, was an inventor, owned several factories and businesses and whatnot. And no, he didn't invent anything cool that you've heard of, you know, not a new light bulb or anything. But he did invent a couple things that are behind the scenes. That's the type of stuff he worked on, industrial stuff, applications. There was some slack adjuster work, which you will find in every semi-trailer on the freeway behind their tire, and various electronic stuff too. But anyway, he always taught me from a very young age, no matter what business I was to wind up in, how to think. How to think. He was a good Papa Bird. He was training the babies to, be self-sufficient, understand something. Even if you're working for somebody else, see how those processes work and how that works so you can be in a better position to do well. And one of the things he always said is only play when the odds are in your favor to win. And that's very true. You can ask any successful business person or any, good gambler will tell you the same thing. If you go to Las Vegas or any casino, most times you'll see somebody walking around watching the tables. That it doesn't work for the casino. That's a player. And what they're doing, they're not counting cards or seeing what statistics a particular blackjack table is paying out. No, they're just watching what games are hot. They're getting a lay of the land. Okay, this is happening over here. I have a greater chance of success. The odds are in my favor to win more if I play here or there. Sometimes they'll walk out because all the tables are stale and. So that's the other big lesson. If the odds are not in your favor to win, pass, pound sand, get out of there, baby. And in business, if you're talking about deals or business or real estate or something, believe me, I'm an old man. Something I learned a long time ago. Once in a lifetime deals and opportunities happen about twice a month if your awareness factors on and you're looking. They happen a lot, folks. They happen a lot. But yeah, only play so that's great and that's wonderful. How do you apply that in your art business? Now, as I said, I've been doing this a long time. 2001, pre 9/11. How about that? How about that? Think about that. That's a long time, man. Decades. And I work for myself. Now, I do have collectors and clients that want me to paint something. They commission stuff to be painted. That happens every other day around here and has consistently. The thing is yes, I'm doing work for a particular collector or whatnot, but I ain't punching a clock. They're not responsible of keeping me going and whatnot. You don't want to be in a position like that because then you start giving all your attention to that particular collector. And you have to be able to juggle multiple balls, have to be in the air. So, yeah, my goal, I have this written down even. My goal for my business, every business should have a goal that there's a reason you're moving the football down the field towards the goalpost. You're trying to score points. I don't care so much about scoring points. My goal is to connect with people that end users that are looking to add to their existing art collection or looking to begin one. Everybody goes through stages in life, and I love a client, and I sell posters. We have a merch store. We have posters that we sell. Every poster I sell, I love because I know at some point, that person who bought that poster potentially, not guaranteed, but potentially, there's a good chance of it, will move into a position in their life where they want actual artwork, tangible painting for their wall, as opposed to a poster that 5,000, 10,000 other people have. You know what I mean? They want an original painting. There's a good chance that they will move into that. Get to a level where you start insuring stuff and whatnot. That's a whole nother. I will get in. That's a future Sunday art biz chat. I don't know what we're going to call this, but that'll be a future thing. The ins and outs of that, tax write-offs for artwork donation or loans. You'll see that in big museums. This particular painting is on loan from the blah blah foundation or family or whatever. There's a reason. There's that sign, but we're not going to get in that today. Today, this is for the basic bare bones stuff. But yeah, you have to define whatever it is you're doing. I don't care if you're painting, you're in a band, you're baking biscuits and trying to sell them, selling crystals at the artesian market, whatever it is, there needs to be a goal. And oftentimes I tell people, I have found it extremely helpful if you write that goal down, pin it up on your board, whatever you got to do, but it keeps you kind of focused on that. It gives you a North Star to sail your ship towards. And that's not a bad thing, because it's very easy in life to get distracted and off course. It happens every day. But having a goal is incredibly important. And because it allows you to get your mind to think in terms of, okay, well, I've got this goal. How do I get there? What do I do? What do I not do? And that's what today's video is about. Man, my hair keeps wanting to fall out from this thing. Anyway, reaching potential new collectors. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. That is the reason I get up every morning super early. On average, it's 3 a.m. Sometimes it's 2. I go to bed usually every night about 10. I have found that works best for me. Not saying everybody needs to do that. That's what works best for me. That's when early morning is when my mind is the sharpest. And I know everybody's going, yeah, you're recording this late at night then, huh? No, it's 10:45. But a.m. That's what works best for me. I love early morning. The phone's not ringing. Emails aren't popping in every 2 seconds. And it just, my mind, the computer's been defragged and everything just seems to work a little better for me. And that's when I like to work. Find what works for you and do that. There you go. There's a big secret. So reaching new collectors, that's my big thing. That's what I do. That's what I want to do. That's my goal. And in that, so here's a couple ways, very basic ways that I do that. My podcast. A lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people in the entertainment world, as far as like PR level people and whatnot, not the artists, but the people they pay to help get the word out and whatnot, when they first start working with me, everybody assumes, because of the zeitgeist, the world we live in, that I'm a podcaster who paints. That is not true. That is simply not true. I'm the opposite. I'm a painter who has a podcast. The whole reason we do the podcast, again, I think in chess terms. Every move I make, ladies and gentlemen, here's a big secret to Jamie Roxx, is thought out best I can, and there's a plan involved. There's moves. I'm thinking these things through, and I'm doing. If I do anything, it's for a reason. You know, gets me closer to that goal. The podcast I started doing. Okay, before I even did the podcast, before I even moved to Florida, I lived in Southern California, and I've told this story before on the various shows and whatnot. People probably know. I now am what I refer to as a retired club rat. I used to hang out in a lot of nightclubs, a lot of high-end nightclubs out on the West Coast. Now, the reason I did, well, have you seen the women? No, beautiful women everywhere. Everywhere. No, the reason I hung out at these places is because that tended to attract those potential clients and collectors that I was looking to connect with. Number one, why high-end nightclubs? Because they're expensive, and it goes without saying, if you're hanging out in one of those, you can probably afford a painting. Number two, they were just people that were, maybe into more modern music and whatnot. So they're maybe there's a good chance they're open to more contemporary type art, and they've probably dipped more than a toe into that pool. They're familiar with it and whatnot. Anyhow, this was a long time ago, back in the MySpace days, Yeah. And I would hang out with those people and meet everybody. And that would lead to painting sales and whatnot. I used to go, this was back before smartphones. And I'd always carry a digital camera, and expensive. They were expensive. These were these big cameras about yay big, and you stuck a hard disc into the side of it, which was about that big, and that held your pictures. But it was convenient because you didn't have to take film to get developed, which was always a pain in the neck before those came out. That's what everybody had to do. And that's why you'll see a lot of people my age don't have a lot of pictures from their youth, because it costs money to get those pictures developed, and to have the camera, and it was a pain in the neck. But the digital cameras, they were expensive. I think I paid $1,000 for those, each one. I have a bad habit of setting things down or losing things, forgetting about it, and walking off on them, which got to be quite expensive. Kind of cured me a little bit of that habit. So I used to carry one of those. I would take pictures, and it got to a point where I was hanging out with so many celebrities and whatnot that I actually would take a photographer with me, so I could be in the picture with the celebrity, because we put them on the website and whatnot. We had a whole thing, and everybody who went to the club would go to the website and see the picture. Oh, am I in one of the pictures? And they would do all that. That's how it used to be, folks. I know the younger people on here will not be able to wrap their head around that, but that's how it used to be. Absolutely. And that was another reason it got people to my website. Oh, let me go. I'm going to look for and see if I'm in a picture or whatnot. But while I'm here, oh, look at that painting. That's cool. Oh, wow. And again, there's always a reason for everything I do, just how I am and whatnot. Now, this was all pre-podcast. Now, I moved to South Florida. I met my wife and whatnot. I was talking to, all my California friends are like, what the hell are you doing in Florida? What are you? And a very good friend of mine asked me, he said, are you going to start hanging out in the Miami clubs and whatnot? And I'm like, no, man, I got a gal now. I got a girl. That's how you lose a girl, hanging out in nightclubs. He goes, yeah, but, you got to sell. I'm like, yeah, I know. And so he hipped me to the idea. He goes, well, hey, this podcasting thing has been happening a little bit on the fringes, but I think it's going to be the next thing, And I said, really? And he's a comedian. And he said, well, in the comedy world, it sure is. Everybody's scrambling to get people to run their podcast, to help them make a podcast. And so when you watch all these comedians and stuff like that, they're paying somebody on, not all, but that's how it used to be. A lot of them were, not this guy. He did everything himself. But so, I looked into it. I've never done a podcast. I don't know that much about computers. I really don't know. I really don't know that much about computers and tech. I mean, I know a little bit, but not, you know, this was all new to me. I didn't know how to do this and whatnot. And so in 2013, I started the podcast. And yes, we were audio only until this past summer. And then we added video then. And to be honest, I like the video better than just doing the audio. Yeah, I like looking at no, everybody, I look like a toad. I am well aware, I'll own that and whatnot. But what I like about the video is behind me are paintings. And when people see the paintings, as opposed to hearing about them, there's a better chance of connecting with potential new collectors. So yeah, the podcast is cool. I love doing it. I've been doing it. It's really it's also a social thing for me because I'm very extroverted. I'm a social person. I like talking to people and whatnot, and hearing their stories and everything. And I'm already very familiar with folks in the entertainment world when I started the podcast. And so it wasn't a real big deal. And it was cool. So, I already knew some people that I could have on the show and whatnot. And you always meet new people and stuff, especially with the rise of social media and whatnot. It really does well for that. People have access. I've talked about this on the show before. When I was a kid, you didn't have access to bands other than buying their material. You would read magazines, liner notes on albums and CDs and whatnot, and maybe glean a little something about this band from that. But other than that, that was it. There was no Instagram. Oh, here I am, I just golfed 9 holes. No, we didn't know that. We did not know that. We just thought you were a rock star and was melting people's faces constantly. We didn't know you actually had a life. I'm half kidding there. But anyway, so I moved here. I started doing the podcast. That was 2013, and it was great. But understand, from 2013 to now, the sole reason I have a podcast, the sole reason, is it helps me get closer to my goal of connecting with potential new collectors and people that, might dig my work. You know what I mean? That's the whole reason behind it. And, it's been very positive. The podcast for me has been very positive. It ain't easy. There's at least I had a huge learning curve to it. And it's so funny. I used to I haven't in a while, but there for a minute, I was getting people I kind of knew, I was acquaintances with, and this and that. No really close friends would do this. People would contact me saying, hey, we're starting a podcast, and how do we find advertisers? How do we want to get to where you're at, but we want to do it in like a month. How do we do it? And I'm like, and I remember telling one person, I'm like, I'm on episode 942. That's how I did it. I did 942 episodes. And, then suddenly talking, really between you and me, that thousand episodes is the magic number. People start returning your calls, with that. And it's, when we start doing YouTube, it's kind of discouraging in a way because the numbers aren't maybe 2% of what the audio numbers were and still are. Got a lot of audio listeners. I'm trying to convert that to video listeners, and it just takes time. Everybody I've talked to in the business tells me, it's exactly what I was telling other people. There's no shortcut. It takes time. And, you got to learn the rules of that particular game and play them, but you got to learn it. You got to figure that stuff out. Now, so yes, a podcast or some way where people can see your work helps tremendously. Not just people, the right people. Instagram's a great example of that. I have been told by a number of people that are on my Instagram and whatnot, I have one. All social links are on my website and everything, and here and whatever. But I don't care that much about Instagram because Instagram, to me, doesn't have a track record for generating sales. Twitter was great until a certain someone took it over. I did a whole post this morning on my Facebook, if you're interested in that. Maybe I'll put that over on the blog too. I should. But yeah, Twitter used to be great, and then somebody, and I'm not talking political views directly. I don't like my brand next to Nazi stuff, but honestly, the big thing with Twitter that pissed me off and why I left was they cut out hashtags. Hashtag search results, and what that means. Say somebody's really into, I used James Dean earlier as an example when I was writing that post. Say somebody's really into James, it doesn't matter. Insert whatever, Led Zeppelin, whatever. I have painted thousands and thousands of paintings, and chances are, if somebody's hashtagging how it used to be on Twitter, Led Zeppelin, cool Led Zeppelin stuff or whatever, there's a good chance one of my paintings of Led Zeppelin will pop up in their search results. And I'm a step closer to meeting someone who might like my art, but also digs Led Zeppelin, and obviously I do too because I painted the painting, and whatever. And so I'm closer to my goal. Now, then suddenly, the only way, and they couldn't even prove this to me. I was told by Twitter, these are things that were concerning to me, is traffic stopped. I was selling paintings every week. I don't want to say how many, but I was selling multiple paintings, and that's direct paintings, and also multiple commissions. They're like, hey, I dug the way you painted that Led Zeppelin painting. Here's my Chihuahua. Can you paint him? Yes, I can. And a lot of my business is that way. A lot of my business was directly from Twitter back in the day. My car Patreon, everybody's like, you paint all these fancy race cars. I got into painting those with one guy, a guy who collects vintage fancy race cars. He's got a big building. He calls it a stable, and his stable he owns, I don't want to say too much, how many or what. I don't want to put his business out there, but you can see, go to my website and see the number of vintage fancy race cars that I've painted. I'll tell you guys, honestly, about 95% of that is one client. And that's what he does. It's what he does. He's a great client, great Patreon of mine. And in the traditional art sense of the word Patreon, he's not on my Patreon. I don't think he could get that far with the computer. He's an elder, but he's cool, man. He's cool. And, a lot of those cars he owns aren't just for, on a shelf either. Those are actively, he has drivers and whatnot, and they go race them. And yeah, it's a whole thing, man. It's a whole thing. Very, very cool. I actually have started getting some work from some of his friends and what, because they see, you go into a stable, there's the fancy car, and there's an easel with the portrait I have painted of the car in front of it or next to it or whatever. That's great. I need 10 of those. I wouldn't have any time to do anything else. But yeah, so you want to connect. And I connected with that guy. He bought who was Fred Astaire's main gal? I'm thinking Lana Turner, but that ain't it. I can't think of her. Blonde. She did everything Fred Astaire did, but backwards, and it doesn't matter. Anyway, I painted a painting of this particular classic Hollywood actress. He dug it. He bought that. He goes, hey, by the way, I love this. Have you ever painted any vintage fancy race cars? Why, no, I haven't. What do you have in mind? There's a lot. I painted a lot of them now. Anyhow, so yeah, Twitter was great for that. And then they weren't. And so I was like, okay, bye. I'm not going to wait for things. I don't have time to wait for anything. And I detest nonsense. I don't waste my time with anything because I don't have it to waste. It's too important. It's too precious to me. I have 87 things I have to get done in a particular time. And the time is there's only room for about 30. So, anyhow, Okay, so that's one of the other things that has worked well for me. Get ready, folks. Get ready because you're gonna get oh man, I'm gonna get emails for this, but it's true. I do not actively seek to be in galleries or part of gallery shows. I, I don't have an interest in that, and I will explain the reasons. And I'm going to follow that with positive things about being in galleries and gallery shows. But my big thing is I like selling direct to the end user collector. I think in general, other than outside of a prestige deal scenario, the gallery's time has kind of come and went. Internet killed galleries. People, for exactly what we're talking about, can deal directly with me and don't have to go through a gallery to deal with them. And while we're on that, let me list a couple things, reasons why I would have such a Philistine outlook on galleries. Some of my friends own galleries, folks. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm not yucking on anyone's yum, as my wife likes to say. I'm just telling you my personal experience with it. And I get for the new amateur painter that's maybe breaking into the business, the reaction you get from people who don't know the art world much is, ooh, you're in a gallery. Whoa, they must have found you and they believe in you. No, that's not how it works at all. It's not how that works. But that's how a lot of non-sophisticated people, and I'm not putting anybody down. I'm saying they're not exposed to that world, so they don't understand. But yeah, that's how a lot of them view being in a gallery. Yeah. Now, again, for people that are, well, I'm in Sotheby's, so I disagree. Well, yeah, you shouldn't be watching this video, man. If you're in Sotheby's, you ain't going to glean anything new. The majority of galleries, it's a good, anyway, I don't even want to say that. But some of the negatives of dealing with galleries that I don't dig is the cut, the pie, how much the gallery gets versus how much the painter gets. Now it ain't the Spotify split for bands, but it ain't much better. It ain't much better. A little bit. No, it is actually a lot better than that. But I have had galleries want standard is usually 30 or 40%. Depends on the location in the country or the world, really. Majority of my experience galleries are in the U.S. I have had some dealings in Europe, but yeah, most of my experience has been in the U.S. And yeah, average, I'm talking 30 to 40%, and that's what you're dealing with. That means, and usually they take the higher side. Now, in higher end markets, here in South Florida, for example, it's 50 to 60%. So if you sell a painting for $100, they're keeping 60, you're getting 40 in that scenario. Now, why is that? Why would that happen? Why would it be? Well, they've got overhead. They've got to keep the lights on, overhead, utilities, rent. They're usually in a high traffic area and whatnot. Those places ain't cheap. And, so they've got to do, that's how they do the business. Now, traditionally, in the art world, a gallery and dealers would have an existing clientele. They would have an existing relationship with folks that bought. That's why they dealt with them and whatnot. That's not always the case, though. I've had galleries want access to my email list, want me to give them my email list that I've spent 20 years building and whatnot. And, now. So they have access to my collectors that they can sell somebody else's paintings to. No, and they don't even want to pay you for that. Um, I wouldn't have sold it anyway. But yeah, so what am I using you for? I have dealt with some galleries. People say, I see every day on your blog, you'll mention you were in this particular show or that gallery. Those are usually friends, and it's usually last minute. I found out about that the show starts in 2 weeks, week and a half, sometimes sooner, and they're friends, and they need to either cover some real estate on the walls, and they know that I probably usually not on hand, but they know if they give me a week, I can knock some stuff out pretty quick with the theme of what their particular show is and whatnot. Or they just want to jazz up. Now, yeah, but they're going to want half the money. Be prepared. Do not be surprised when you're dealing with galleries. You're paying for that. One of the other things I don't particularly dig is the majority of galleries usually have multiple painters that they're showing for a particular show. Meaning, they may have 20 artists in there, 20 artists with their work. So what that means is the attention your potential paintings are getting is about 20%, if that, of sales attention. So there's not a ton of motivation. I mean, any sale is a sale, I get it, but there's not a ton of motivation to sell your particular stuff. I've had gallery situations where, no, I owned a gallery myself in San Diego, and it was my studio and gallery, and it's very, very true. And I'll lay some hard truth on you. If it was just me working, and somebody walked in off the street or whatever, I was way more interested and motivated to sell my particular paintings than somebody I was renting wall space to. And that's very true for every gallery who has a painter owner. I mean, that's just human nature, and it's very true with anybody. So, there's lack of selling attention. They've got a whole bunch of people. They got 20 people that need selling attention, so you gotta deal with that. Another thing that I dislike about being in shows, gallery work, is it ties up a painting. It ties up a painting. 90% of the time, not all. I'm thinking of particular someone right now who always, because understands, we're friends, understands when he sells something, if I'm in a show of his, that, he'll give me a ring. Hey, Jamie, this sold. Okay, what size was that again? Okay, 24 by 30. I'll have you a new 24 by 30 day after tomorrow to put it in its place. And for the gallery, it's much easier if somebody buys a painting. Well, the show runs for 2 months, so we'll see you in 2 months when you can pick up what you just paid lots of money for. That doesn't work. That kills sales. So if the person can take it home, or they have it delivered and mount it on their wall, or however, depending on the gallery and what they're doing, that's much better. So having that, because nobody wants a big gaping place where that painting was, having a painter that can replace it with something equally as cool or whatever, still on theme, because that day I'm going to the art store and buying, if I don't have one on hand, the 24 by 30 canvas, and knocking out that night and the following day, the painting to replace that. So, that happens a lot with this particular dealer. Now, but most shows will want the painting. Well, the show's going to be 2 months, so that means that we need it for 2 months. And I hate paintings that don't sell in 2 months. I hate it. I hate it. I want a painting and I get every painting has a different, there's no average on it. I guess technically there would be, but I want things to move. I'm on to the next thing. Always movement. And I don't like tying up a painting for extended periods of time, because I know I can move that thing relatively quicker, much quicker than the gallery can. And another thing I like working with myself as opposed to a gallery is Gallery A May even have their potential clients and collectors that they have on file and whatnot. And that's great. They have a show. You're in the show. Mr. X or Mrs. X comes in, falls in love with your painting, blah, blah, blah. They buy the painting. The gallery gets their cut. You get yours, usually after the show's over. And that's great. And that's typically how that will go down. But you may be noticing something, or may not, because a lot of people don't realize this, is if Mrs. X wants another painting or a painting of her grandkids or whatever, family portrait, their horse, their race horse, any of that, they have to, I really like this painting. I like the way he did this. Let me call that gallery, and suddenly you've got another order, you got a commission, but the gallery is positioned in a place where they're getting their cut and they're maintaining. They ain't just going to give Mrs. X your number and have her call you and you guys work it out. That ain't going to happen. They want to middleman it. And I get it, but I learned a long time ago, I like dealing with decision-making people in a position to make decisions, I should say. I don't like to have to go through a middleman or a manager or something like that. I would much rather have Mrs. X have a relationship with Mrs. X where when she wants a painting, she has a guy. I know a guy. She calls me or emails me, whatever, and says, I need a painting of a horse. Can you kind of do it like the one you did, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can do that. Let's make it happen. Let's get into some paperwork here. So, I like being able to have a relationship with a collector that is way more, I'm not saying it never happens, but I'm saying it's way more difficult on average to have that type of relation, to have access to collectors directly. It ain't gonna. The reality is, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen because why would the gallery leave money on the table? And the final thing I wanted to touch on, these are just things I wrote down off the top of my head when I was thinking about doing this, is lack of brand control. Being lumped in with people I don't want my brand near. As I said, I work really hard on this brand. This brand is over 20 years old. And, I'll give you a good example. I was asked to be in a show a couple of years ago. Politically, this was during the first Trump presidency. Had just happened, like the year before. Anyway, I was asked to be in the show. And I saw the group. I'm like, well, who's all in it, And I got the list of the people. And so immediately, first thing I did was go on their social media and see what they're posting. Because I've been to this types of dances so many times, I know what I want to avoid. And so I look, like any employer even, I look at their social media. And sure enough, there was a gal who's a painter trying to be, and she's bitching about gay people and putting all these anti-gay posts up and all this shit. And I'm like, honey, you're in the wrong business. This is the arts. The arts. Nothing but gay people in the arts. Being straight, you're the exception. You're the minority. This is the art. These are the people who have entertained us and whatnot for ever. You can't be anti-gay and be in the arts. Is all I'm saying. It's going to be a rough road. But yeah, she's posting all this stuff on her social media. And I'm like, I don't want that stink on me. And I told the person, and he goes, really, you feel strongly about this? And I said, absolutely. I said, I got to have brand awareness. I can't have my brand be tainted by some nonsense from somebody else. I said, I can't control anybody else. I can only control how I react to that. And so I'm going to pass on the deal. And he's like, we wanted you to kind of be the unspoken headliner of it. And I said, well, first off, you want me to headline something, you better start speaking about it. And secondly, no, I don't want this stink on me, and I showed, and this guy's gay who I'm talking to. It's like, really, is it that bad? And I'm like, you got your phone in your pocket? Pull it out. Take a look. And he did. And it was. And he's like, oh, she's out of the show. She's gone. She's history. Will you do the show now? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that really happened. That really happened here in South Florida. I don't want to name any names or anything, but yeah, that happened. Now, yeah, so I don't want my brand tainted. That's why I left Twitter, man. I don't want that stink on me. I work too hard for this. I get up too early. I could have been sleeping until 7 every day, not having to get up and do the blog and all this and that every day. No breaks. That's how it is. And that's fine. That's what I signed up for. But it's too important to me to have it screwed up by somebody's nonsense. Now, enough negative stuff. Let's do some positive things about working with galleries. There are no, I'm kidding. No, there absolutely are. They can provide a buffer between you and the collector or a potential collector. Because you don't want to, when somebody tries to grind you down on price, it's very easy to get frustrated if you're a painter, because you're like, man, I worked hard on that. That was a paint. Those translucent waves took me a while to paint, man. You don't even know what I went through, let alone my life to get to the point where I can paint something like that. Not even thinking about that. Just that particular painting. And here they are trying to grind you down. Some people want the best deal. You can't fault somebody for that. But if it doesn't, at the same time, if they're offering you, unless you are doing caricatures on the boardwalk and are happy with that type of rate, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It can get frustrating dealing with certain collectors, and if they're trying to grind you down on it and it's just pissing you off, nobody wants to spend their day pissed off. So understand, when you're working with the gallery, they ain't grinding. You never hear about it. You never hear the conversation, because the gallery's job is to deal with all that bullshit. They want to deal with that, and that's great, so you can just keep on painting. It's not a bad thing. That's a definitely positive of working with a gallery. Again, we mentioned this earlier. If they have an established clientele who have a track record of buying, that's fantastic. They're shooting fish in a barrel, man. What do you want me to paint? Find out what that clientele is before, if you can, so you can, kind of paint to that market. It's very, very true. And believe me, folks, that happens. That's happened to me. Painted the wrong thing for a particular market that a particular gallery had. The one that's in my mind, I don't want to tell the whole story, but yeah, I was doing this gallery show and whatnot, and I painted my normal stuff, because I asked, what do you want me to paint? What's the theme? Oh, just do your normal stuff. Just do your normal. So, yeah, real glamorous, posh, high-end women up to no good. Maybe with a poison ring, putting some poison in some guy's drink. I love that. That is my bread. That's my stock and trade. Now, that doesn't mean I ain't painting people's pets. I do that too, But yeah, glamorous women up to no good. That's my Beatles White Album. Well, not really, but really, But you gotta sometimes sing, I Want to Hold Your Hand, so you can do the White Album. So I paint a lot of kids, I paint a lot of pets and stuff like that, so I can paint my weird, messed up, glamorous women up to no good. What does my wife call them? My Roxx girls. And yeah, those are the gals that just lounge around watching Netflix or whatever in their high heels and lingerie. Of course. Planning their move of their no good move. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, if they have make sure you find out what their established market is beforehand, so you can. I painted all those paintings of those glamorous women, and it was a gay guy market. They weren't that interested to hang that over the piano, They wanted more, and I didn't know. And it was my own fault for not. I did ask, but I can only blame myself. I didn't ask enough because I got a vague answer and I went with that. And we didn't sell anything. Didn't sell anything. And that's weird. Whenever I do a show or something, we're going to sell a lot. And that is very typical. When we didn't sell anything, I'm like, there's something up. There's something up. Trace it down, as my father would say. What didn't you do to cause this reaction? Or what did you do? And sure enough, I painted the wrong product to that particular market. Now, the next show with that market was a little different. And I positioned myself when the odds were better for me to win. So again, it all goes back to that. And the last thing about that I, off the top of my head, I'm sure there's others, that I like that is positive about galleries. Well, I just thought of another one. Here's another one. If you're in a situation and you're young and whatnot, and you're moving, have a million apartments and this or that, where you're moving from one to another, and you know what I mean. When we all went through it when we were kids, when we were young, is you may have a stock of paintings that you want protected, putting them in a gallery because the gallery might sell them and whatnot. But all the galleries can't have you be in business if you're not insured. All those paintings are now secure and safe someplace and insured while you get your shit figured out. You can get moved into the new pad or whatever. So it's a great place for that as well. I just thought of that. Did that with a big screen TV one time in a pawn shop. I knew the owner of. And he's like, how much you're trying to pawn your TV? What do you need for it? And I'm like, $20. He's like, what? $20? I said, yeah. And I got 6 months, right, to come get it? And he's like, yeah, by California law. And I said, okay, great. I will see you within 6 months and bring you your $20 back. And what I did, the reason I did that is that I was going to another town and whatnot. I didn't want to take the TV with me. And I figured I'd probably be back. Or if not, I would come back and get the TV somehow with the truck. But yeah, so you could do that with art too. There's absolutely no reason you could. Anyhow, okay, exposure to a potential new market. Say you're new in town. Say you're like, hey, there's a lot of gay guys in this neighborhood or whatnot. This gallery wants to. I haven't sold to a lot of gay guys, and money's green. I don't care where it comes from. Green's on the pride flag, isn't it? I don't know if it is or not. My wife would know. She knows all that kind of stuff. But anyhow, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is certain galleries have certain clientele, and you can get exposed to that particular, if that's what you want to do. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing ever. So yeah. Now, going along with that, another positive thing you can do to achieve that I have done and do all the time, that gets me closer to my goal of connecting with people that may be interested in my work, is charity work. I love charity work. Number one, it makes me feel real, real good. You're helping out. You're doing something. You're part of the solution, not part of the problem, man. And that's a good place to be. That's a good place to be. Now, yeah, it may get you at the VIP table in heaven or whatnot, and that's great. I'm not discounting that at all. Frankly, I feel that if I'm probably on the VIP list, if anything, just to annoy people who aren't. Kidding, kind of. Anyhow, charity work is great. You can support a cause you like, help out with something, man. And there's always something that needs helping out with. It never stops. You can reach a whole new bunch of potential collectors. Every charity that has an event, not everyone, but I would say 99% of them have a bunch of tables, and they either do a silent auction, which is fine. I prefer a raffle situation where they sell the tickets and raffle off one of the paintings or whatever, or the things that they have been donated, and I just think that charity makes more money with that, statistically. They're going to do way better selling raffle. It's a lot easier for somebody to reach in their pocket and pull out $20 and buy a whole handful, a fistful of raffle tickets than it is for somebody to commit to paying $400 on, a new golf bag. It's just better. It's just better. And I've told charities this. I'm like, hey, I will go to Walmart and buy the big roll of tickets, find somebody cute to pass them out to sell them. You're just going to make more money. You're going to make more money for your achieving your goal of the whole reason you're having the event. And it usually works out better. But I've done the silent auction too. And there's nothing, and sometimes people don't want to mess with all that. They they don't have the staff for it. And they just, no, we just want to do the silent auction. Okay, that's great. That's great. Your painting you've donated, you got to fill a form thing out whenever you do that, is a tax write-off. It's part of doing business. Talk to your accountant. They will know exactly what to do with that. But yeah, it ain't like you're just giving the painting away. And, you're getting exposure. Everybody laughs at the whole exposure. Sometimes exposure is a good thing. And it's particularly when dealing with charities, because 9 times out of 10, you get great press exposure. Every newspaper or every local channel, oh yeah, by the way, the XYZ charity is having an event this Friday, and they're having blah, 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 and here's such and such, the director of XYZ charity, and in front of all the stuff, in their silent auction, standing here on the news. And, ooh, I like that painting there, or whatever. You just see it on the news. That's great advertising. Whenever you want you or your painting or whatever, something you've done to be on, usually you got to pay the news to run your commercial or whatnot. When you're on the news during something like that, that is a free commercial. You don't have to pay nothing. So it's well worth doing. And I'll tell you something, and I don't know, I don't want to get all spiritual on you or anything like that. Whatever your particular beliefs are, I think morality, we all want to do what we can to help in whatever. And something I have noticed, every charity I've ever done, every one, I can't think of one that this hasn't happened, always has led to more business. Somebody from that charity is going to say, you know what? I like that painting he did of there. Can you paint this? Or can you do it? They'll reach out to you. I always put a stack of cards by the painting, and, the charity doesn't care. I'm like, yeah, call that guy. We're going to call him too next time we do an event. Always leads to something. Every one. And I don't know if that's just the universe balancing this. Oh, you did something good. Let's send something good his way. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Maybe there is some cosmic balance going on there. I don't know. All I know is I'm happy to receive it. That's all I'm saying. And working with charities is great. Now, doing anything that's going to get you closer to your goal. And that's my advice. That's my advice. And it can be anything. It can be anything. How do you find what local charities in your area are doing something? Well, they all have. Here's one where I happen to live. I got to make sure my wife won't be showing our address out on the internet. You don't have nothing to worry about, folks, but she's just request from the missus. Every community, most communities have their little neighborhood, city, town, whatever, little local magazine type deal. We live in Deerfield Beach. For those who don't know, that's in South Florida. It's just south of Boca, up from Fort Lauderdale. Anyhow, you can look through here, and they have, there's always a lot of dentist ads and, different types of things. These are probably people you should know in your community if you're trying to sell art. But just saying, no. Here you go. Here's the full moon art walk. Those are never a bad thing to do. I'm not a big fan of them myself. I've been there, done that, kind of when I was younger. And unlike my wife, she loves doing these artesian markets and stuff. Just not my thing. Not putting it down by any means. But you can usually find some upcoming charity thing, or here's the beach cleanup event thing they had. Well, who did it? Who put it on? Let me get a hold of them and say, when's the next thing you're doing? You know what I mean? The Kiwanis Golf Tournament. Oh, who do I know at the Kiwanis? I happen to know the president of our local Kiwanis. Because I know that knowing him is a good thing, and be aware of your community, you know what I mean? And things that are going on and whatnot. These little magazines are great for that. Great for that. And, that's what you do. That's what you do, folks. You find out, um, man, these people are having a big boat sale. They sell these. We live by the A1A, which is like, that's where all the millionaires live, I mean, and they have those mega yachts and stuff down there. And here's a company I'm seeing, I just went past it, that are selling those giant yachts and stuff. And they're having call me today. Here, Jackie's her name. She's a brokerage owner. And I don't want to say who it is here, but yeah, they sell these giant, humongo things. Is she having a big party where they're trying to sell these things with a bunch of people that can afford mega yachts? How would you like to jazz it up a little bit with an art show? Yeah, this particular types of paintings may not be your jam. Here's my website with the thousands of paintings I have painted. I can pretty much cover any jam you got in mind. That particular crowd, well, we can paint some yachts, some mega yachts. I'm also have a feeling that the classics, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all them usually go over pretty well with that particular crowd. High-end stuff. They like that. That's why they're buying a mega yacht. But just think and be aware, you can find out this stuff. It's there for anybody. Well, Jamie, I don't have that magazine. Go to your library. Trust me, they do. It's like I tell everybody I mentor, I don't care how old you can be, even if you're not an old man like me, buy these. Buy these. You can get them at the dollar store. They sell them in a pack of a bunch with different colors on them. I've got so many of these, I sometimes will match the color to if I'm doing an event or something. Because I always have this in my pocket, so I can take notes on. I'm an old man. I like to remember things. But yeah, take your pad of paper, take notes. Go find that magazine. Your library has it, I guarantee, or the closest one to your particular area. So yeah, so be smart, but figure out what your goal is, write it down, and then ask yourself, how do I get to that goal? And your brain will tell you, just take those steps to do it, man. And it's pretty. Chances are more in your favor to win. The odds are more in your favor to win if you do that. And just be smart about it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Or as smart as you can be. But yeah, waiting to be discovered or whatever in the art world. Good luck with that. I hope it happens for you. But understand, those stories you hear, Basquiat and the like, those are the lottery wins. Those are the 1 in a million. That ain't the norm. So you gotta work. You gotta work. So get to work. And I hope things go well for you and continue to go well for you. It's a weird world. Be cool. Be patient with people. And that's going to do it for this. I think we are going to do this every Sunday. Like have a little, take a little quick hour show or something where we talk about different things in the business of art. Because believe me, I have plenty to talk about in there. And hopefully maybe some of you have found this interesting. So thank you for watching. If you like this, like and subscribe. I talk to, filmmakers and rock stars and cool authors and all kinds of cool people a couple times a week. So yeah, check out some of the other videos as well. And any of these paintings, all 3 of these paintings right here, if I have a painting behind me on one of my shows, chances are they're usually for sale. You can go to my website. We have everything on my website that's for sale and available is up on eBay. So, very easy and convenient for you. And, I pay all the fees. So don't worry about that. You got to pay the shipping. But yeah, everything's always on eBay. So there you go. Because you know why? Because they're like, why don't you put some paintings up that aren't on eBay? Because I don't have them. They've sold. They're off to they're hanging on the new home on the wall somewhere, over the fireplace. over the piano. So yeah, I don't have them. So there you go. We will see you next time. When are we going to see you? I guess we're going to see you Tuesday. That's when the next show is going to be. Very cool show. I talked to a very cool CEO. And they're like, Jamie, what are you talking about? CEOs are the bad guys. Not all. Not all. But I talked to one who's very cool, very smart. And we had a real fun time, real cool conversation. We were talking about the new green construction materials and whatnot, environmentally friendly construction. Yeah, see, you guys, check it out. That's gonna be on Tuesday. Clark Lowell, he's a cool dude, man. A lot of fun, and owns his own plane. Doing well, doing well. So there you go. We'll see you then. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.